Yo, Icy here. So, the sun wanted to start problems with me when I was recording this by turning my room into a sauna, forcing me to have a fan constantly running just to not die from existing in my room. To compensate, I'm doing a voiceover for this video instead of the usual method I use. I hope this doesn't negatively affect the video for you. Anyway. The literal first moment I logged in, I received several errors that I didn't understand in the slightest, and considering the fact that most of the things I try and fix either become a smoke machine or stop working altogether, I decided it would be best if I moved on to simpler activities, like nearly dying to fall damage. After snapping my ankles, I then decided to actually do something productive and get started on a simple farm, as currently my rations are looking more barren in Queso's fridge. I then began looking around for a few minutes before I remembered I have no food and left my very much stolen blimp to go and grow crops. While I was at it, a local impeded onto my property and was promptly dealt with. Despite this property being stolen, it's mine nonetheless, and I hate visitors, unless they have pizza. Then came visitors that didn't bring pizza. I did what any respectable shut-in would do and went to bed hoping that whoever knocked at my door would eventually leave. Once I woke up, I decided a second nap via blunt force trauma to my entire body was in order. Clearly, my timing sucked balls. After failing the world's easiest skill check, I went to go get seeds for the farm, which at the moment was little more than wet dirt with lines in them. One crop to note, a plant built like a dick, and probably used like a dick. While admiring the length a plant achieved that I can only pray to have, I heard various derogatory terms from over nearby sand mounds. More guests, with no pizza. With the problem now solved and the farm now farming, I set out to discover just what this game had to offer. I was immediately distracted by the first shiny object I saw. While I was at it, I grabbed some fish meat, got sick from a fish poking me with its tip, invaded the personal space of some short dude who very clearly wanted nothing to do with me, and set off into the wilderness. My very first action upon being let free into a public area was assaulting a random animal. Then I wandered into a graveyard with no loot in it, trust me I checked, and after that, I found a forest. I hate forests. They hide monsters. While I was in there, I heard some random kid snickering to themselves. That ought to serve as my first warning, but as I typically can't recognize danger until it physically shows itself or manhandles me, I ignored it and kept going. I also found what looked like Bambi, but is more likely a skinwalker in disguise, and a witch who gave me stage 2 lung cancer. I also found General Fishington, the newest member of the crew by unanimous vote, that being myself, some extra plants I decided to take home, and a free crack shack with a furnace and bed, probably riddled with like 15 different diseases. At this point, my inventory was beginning to look more packed than a KFC during Black History Month, but I decided to keep going so I found something of note before returning home. That's when I found this cave, and promptly dropped General Fishington into a pool of lava. Whoops. As for the contents of the cave itself, it had the usual. Iron, creepers, man-cows, deep holes in the ground awaiting the common idiots to slip and fall in, that kind of stuff. Oh, would you look at that, the common idiot. Thankfully, the falling resulted in minor fractures that would eventually result in a medical bill breaching the thousands, but that wasn't the main issue. The main issue was the fact that I'm in the same pit holding a bunch of very pissed off mobs that all want to curb stomp the stupidity out of my hard-headed skull. Thankfully, I have a solution to this. Insulting minorities. Creepers suck balls, all they do is blow shit up. They can't hold anything, they ain't scary. The only offensive move is to kill themselves, and to top it off, they were originally coding bugs that are literally a mistake. After alienating an entire community and deciding not to find out whatever the fuck I was looking at was, I left the cave and walked over to a nearby village to see what they had to offer. Turns out very little besides a waystone, a few scraps of food, and birds that identify as firearms. Preferring my body unperforated, I teleported home to sort my inventory. Unfortunately, 2 chests don't exactly have enough space to fit all the junk I brought back, so some home improvements needed to be done before I could continue being a nuisance to Mother Nature. Cue sorting montage. After organizing the literal mountain of junk in my possession, I took a break by reading a book. Among Us! That's a bit... Deciding books were overrated, I took another nap, beat a homeless man to death with a mace in Minecraft, and tended to the farm. Bro, what the hell kind of name?
Aubergine.
The fucking what? Afterwards, I went back to the village I found to scope the scenery out a second time, and got some free back shots for my troubles. Not letting that shit slide was a priority, so I immediately ran to fatally one of the birds. What I didn't know is that he had his homeboys on speed dial. Finally getting fed up with getting pincushion, I created a shield out of the floorboards of some dude's house to try and get back at these unprocessed chicken tenders. Keyword, try. After respawning, I got my stuff, slid for myself, exterminated the rest of the razor-winged infestation, and explored around the village a bit more. Final verdict? Barren. Like, basically just 3 people living here. I had to guess, some tragic accident involving this big crack going right through the middle of it. See, this is why I invested in the blimp. Earthquakes aren't a problem if you live in the sky. What I did find was a statue probably ripped straight from The Legend of Zelda, but for fear of unleashing some ancient wrath upon myself, I didn't take it with me. There was also a book containing important information that I'll most likely forget about by the time I'm done reading this paragraph, and this evil-looking witch hut that turned my frame rate into a frame assumption whenever I looked at it. Fearing whatever CPU gobbling nightmare was in it, I turned away and went home. When I got back, I found a skeleton and cowman existing on my property without a permit, and in a complete lapse of judgment, I attempted to fight them, nearly getting my wig split in the process. I wanted to emphasize that I, in fact, had my shield up to block the grass-munching mauler, but because Minecraft is a laggy lump of shit, the moment I dropped my shield, I got stunned anyway. Thankfully, the skeleton behind them had the aim of a stormtrooper and hit him instead of me. I am currently counting my blessings as I speak. At this point, things were beginning to settle down a lot more, and I was just about ready to hop off for the day. But there were still a few things on my checklist I wanted to get done before that. One of those things being finding out who's been sleeping in the walls this whole time, as every so often I hear a bone shuffling somewhere in the blimp. Without any real plan, as is typical for anything I do in this game, I charged into the back of the blimp to personally evict any stowaways. Turns out I had quite a few more than I anticipated. The blimp apparently had an upstairs area this whole time, an upstairs area with skeleton spawners and free loot. I know it seems cowardly to do this, but you saw what happened with that cow. Even the most inconspicuous of looking enemies can just wreck your shit. Plus, there are benefits to being careful. I'm not gonna say my cowardice is validated because of this, but my cowardice is validated because of this. After beating the brakes off of them for what felt like eons, I was finally able to move on to the deeper parts of the blimp. Or at least, I'd like to, but skeletons keep pouring out of every doorway I come across, which is currently one doorway. In fact, the upstairs is so infested that on multiple occasions I had to go back and restock on food and weapons just to keep going. Eventually, all my efforts culminated in the big boss man himself coming out to put a stop to my shenanigans. Too bad for him, he's incapable of bending his knees. I'm not even gonna bother editing in any type of special tricks for, like, multiple cuts I did for all the other skeletons. Just know he dropped the ball and, he's dead now. Afterwards, I blocked off the doorway to stop skeletons from charging me and began the actual cleanup process, starting with the stragglers wandering around with the ritual. Around this time is when I found the actual real boss man of the blimp, stuck in a cobweb in the corner because I flooded the area to prevent retaliation. The guy has 4 modifiers, the durability of a tank, and the power to damage me at will by flinging me into a wall with psychic powers. I was going to kill him, but at this point I began to hate the sound of skeletons getting hit, so I left them alone to deal with later. My last action before getting off was to go on a quick mining trip, and other than a few chests with loot, a couple enemy trials, I didn't really see much of anything. However, something about the cave I found invoked a strong sense of fear in me. I don't know why exactly, as none of the other caves I've explored had this effect, even the one where I got jump scared by surprise mini-boss. I just chalked it up to the early stages of delirium brought about from my extended play session and moved on. My pickaxe ended up breaking at some point, and without any of the necessary resources to make another, I went back home. And with everything I wanted to do now done, I took a nap, tended to the farm one last time, and logged off for the day, satisfied with my accomplishment.